Hey guys, welcome to another episode of On Social, the show that talks about high-end professional video on social platforms, marketing, all that good stuff. Today we've got a really special show for you. But before we get into that, I just want to let you know next week is the last show of 2019. So we'll be doing the show same bat time, same bat channel, but we will be. This will be the last show until the week of the 7th of January. So mark your calendars. We want to respect everybody's family time and all that good stuff. So we just wanted to let you guys know that. But joining me this week, it's just you and I today, bud. We've got Jeffrey Fitzgerald from jeffinhighdef.tv. Welcome.
Hey, it's always good to be here. You know that. I meant to load up my tropical background so we could play with Marty a little bit. Get the white polyester out like the old Miami Vice of the 1980s. But hope you're having a great time in Miami, Marty.
We should do this next week because Marty's not going to know this. And if the audience members can keep this a secret, what we'll do is I'll change my backdrop to a tropical island. I'll see
I'll
if I
do it.
can dig up like a Hawaiian type shirt. And we'll wear, if you have a Santa hat, I have a Santa hat. We'll come on. He won't be expecting this.
I think that's a
What do
perfect
you guys
idea.
think? Do you think that would be fun to do for
I love
the
it.
for the last show of the year? I think it would be kind of funny just to razz Marty a little bit with that. Um, but no, it's great to be here. I know, for those wondering what we're going to talk about today, we kind of mentioned this in pre-show a little bit. We kind of been joking the last couple of weeks about it, but in all seriousness, Jeff is up for 4 Emmy nominations for his video that he has done for the fire department where he lives. Now, with that said, a lot of people are in companies, they're in businesses that they want to create some high quality catching video that maybe they don't have a budget to go outside a house to do this. And maybe they have, or maybe you have skills in video that maybe just um, enough to get by or dangerous, as I like to put it. Well, I'm hoping today's show is going to, as we walk through this with Jeff, we're going to show Jeff's project that's up for the Emmy, and we're going to have him walk through the creative side of it, the cameras that you used, and why you decided to use those cameras in those specific shots and scenes, and how it tells a story, Jeff. I think those are concepts that I think a lot of people could gain a lot of insight from you on that because of how great it turned out.
Well, I appreciate that. It's actually I'm in my local fire system. I've been in it for 20 years doing marketing and media. I've never fought a fire, but I've been on many fire trucks showing the heroics of these great men and women who have a knack for running toward gas leaks when we all want to run the other way. And these days, in addition to my work as a live streamer and a TV person, I do a lot of strategic marketing for fire systems now for their recruiting and their retention. And this is kind of part of that. This ad was actually for the North Carolina Association of Fire Chiefs through the International Association of Fire Chiefs. And volunteerism across the country is on an absolute decline in the fire systems, and it is a real problem in certain areas. In Pennsylvania, where I was last night, speaking in Harrisburg, all the way to North Carolina, Georgia, there are just the era that we're in. People are not really sticking around. The younger kids are not growing up in it the way they used to when your social world was just the fire department and the church. And so this was really designed to bring out the greater good in serving in the fire system again. Fire systems notoriously are horrible at being able to tell their own story because they think it's obvious, and their idea is to lead with the word volunteer, which doesn't say a lot. It just says, "Give me your time for free."
hmm
And so we wanted to create a story that really told the story of North Carolina, built a lot of unity around it, and brought people into a way of seeing it maybe in a way they haven't seen it before.
Well, what we'll do right now then, Jeff, is we're gonna cut to this clip, and I want you to kind of tell me to stop it if you want. But let's before we get into this, give us the preface. This is how the video is starting. This aerial shot, right? So I presume
Well,
you're
the
using
aerial
a
shot
drone.
actually, yeah, there's a drone in there. The aerial shot comes in about 20, 25 seconds into it. I think that's just the first frame thumbnail, because a
Okay.
lot of times with LinkedIn, it'll take your first thumbnail and you pick the one you want, that kind of thing. But I think just let it roll and let it tell the story, and we'll talk about it.
Okay. Now, mind you guys, there is no audio that's going to come through with this, um, mainly because of the way it's grabbed. So we're just gonna kind of,
Okay,
Jeff,
yeah, I didn't
dialogue
know
over.
that. I
Yeah,
didn't know you.
sorry.
No, that's okay. So basically, our announcer here is saying, that they say that the days that we live in are gone forever, where people give out of their heart, where when money talks, giving walks, that kind of thing. But it's not like that here in North Carolina. And so it goes in and talks about the portrayal of these fire and rescue personnel. Now, these are real fire rescue personnel out of Wilson, North Carolina. This is a small fire station by and large, but they cover a 20 square mile area where they are saving lives on Route 95. Every month, there's an incident somewhere. And we went through this story trying to figure out what were the real parts of this. We wanted to bring in the entire state. So you see fire trucks with other names on them. We talk here in this section where you can serve as a social media person or help buy that next fire truck. But no matter what, you can find your inner hero by serving in the fire department in your town in North Carolina. And it talks about from Manteo to Bailey and everywhere in between, you can be part of the fire service. And for those of you, because this is obviously not the best way to really get the full impact because audio and the voice is everything. I would ask you just to, at the end of the show in the show notes, check that link out and you can see it for yourself really with full impact and you'll get a great idea on what it would look like. But in terms of the camera shots, if you want to go and go back in there, Steve, we can go through different sections there and I can kind of walk you through what we were trying and what we were thinking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm gonna reload it here in just a few seconds here because I want to make sure those that were watching it really didn't do it justice. I'm bringing it in over NDI, and you could just imagine the congestion on the network. So it's pulling it in
Okay.
pretty high bandwidth. So I want to try to see if I can get that down, or even at least for this point, right? We'll show it at a smaller screen. If you have a link, Jeff, can you post it in the chat room for folks? I will
I
also
can
put it in the show
definitely
notes.
do that. I can definitely do that.
Okay. So let me go back to this, and
That is in Facebook. Yep.
okay, so on
So,
Vimeo, let me get rid of this.
so yeah, we wanna be clear here on some of it because I used some stock footage at the very beginning. This initial shot here, I loved. I've had this for a couple other projects, and obviously, you can easily recreate this. It was good for us because we didn't need to. It was beautiful, but that's a dolly shot. Steady camera movement. The American flag is a great portrayer of being part of just the nation and the unity. The North Carolina flag. That starting at this point forward, this is where I began producing the original content from here on out. And this was in the fire station. This was a drone shot on an accident that we had recreated. We took 3 hours to set this accident scene up with, previously wrecked vehicles, smoke bombs, timing and coordinating just like you would on any Hollywood set,
Wow.
the fire rescue personnel moving in and out, and, really the timing of it was perfect, and then we had the drone movement by a wonderful volunteer firefighter, Robert Jones, who I think did an excellent job with what was asked to do. I worked with him for about a half hour. He'd never really done it before, but boy, he knew how to work the drone in a way we wanted, and we got some incredible shots. And I believe those shots are part of, I think, key to one of the Emmy nods being for cinematography. And so you talk about what kind of cameras. I don't know if you can pull it up, Steve, but it's a Sony PXW Z90. This is a compact Sony broadcast camera. It's not typically used for your cinematic stuff. Obviously, you hear a lot more about the DSLR world. I worked for 3 years with a Canon 6D that I really liked. The downside was I didn't like trying to figure out how to get the audio to always sync up, and I always felt a little uneasy not having it in on the same card, when I left. But Canon makes a great line of C series cameras, the C100, the C2 and 3, and they're incredible. And I thought about using it on this project, but fire systems don't typically have the budgets of, six-figure ad campaigns. And so what I decided to do was to take this camera where I knew that it recorded a really strong flat profile, and then I could kind of enhance it, bring it up, and lighten up with what are known as curves and some of the lookup tables also known as LUTs, and you can change the dynamics a little bit with the color space and begin to really frame out a feel that kind of works its way throughout the entire story there.
So real quick, just so I have, you said I pulled up the Sony. Sony PXW-X70, is that what you said? I apologize, I was trying to
Sorry, Z90. I know I gave it to you fast. Z90.
Z90. Okay, so I'll pull that up.
But that looked like, I mean, it's the same line of cameras. The 70 was, I think, 2 back for what this is, and this is a really strong camera for a lot of people who like to do the run and gun, especially if you're doing sports and football. You know, again, it's 4K, but it is a smaller camera. You're not gonna have it over your shoulder, but it's not a phone either. It's not something so small you don't have buttons on it. The camera has a removable top there where you can see the audio component there. That can be pulled off, so I keep that off. As a matter of fact, around here somewhere I can show you part of the camera. You know, so this will come off, but it has got XLR on it on both sides and, full audio controls to give you limiters and, manual override, all that kind of stuff, mic line levels. But the camera, I think, is incredible, and I've been, happy on every project that I've used with it and was extremely surprised that it did so well in low light. You could see when the one scene when the fireman turns off the lamp, you can still make out a little bit of him. We had a light on there in the back trying to give it a little bit of a contour, but it worked. It was really nice in that sense. The, nice shots, and if you want, you can play that for just play it again, and I'll kinda speak to some of these again. Because they're so fast, these shots change, you know, you wanna keep shots changing. It's kinda hard to, like, stop on one of them and keep moving, but, Steve, if you can stop it, if I speak to something here, we can talk about it. Scoot it back a little bit here since you're playing it right out of Vimeo,
So I'm gonna go back to the
and
beginning, let's see if it loads up here right quick.
I know it's not the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's going here.
Yep, so it'll get started here, and this is the part that sets up the whole story,
Yeah, because
and
I want people to see this. I want people to understand your thinking when filming this.
well, you know, this shot to me was the most meaningful. We wanted this to look like a horrible accident on a lonely highway where there's no opportunity for help. You know, you're completely at the mercy of the people who come. And these men and women who are volunteers, who are in their day jobs, give up everything to be totally ready and prepared when that moment comes. Your worst day is another day for them, and they know how to handle it.
So let's
And this is the dolly shot here where, you know, we're sweeping to the left, matching the movement of the fireman coming off of the truck. And
This is that
yeah,
low
you can
light shot that you were
yeah,
speaking about right here. That's a
yeah,
pretty good shot. I mean, that lamp is off but it looks realistic. It doesn't look like it's forced lighting, right?
using bounce lighting with the light aiming at the wall, opposite them, knowing it would some of it would come, you know, obviously come back. And, you know, every one of these shots have a little bit of movement. I've got a
Yes.
3-foot slider dolly, that I used all throughout this, where the camera's on a sliding 3-foot metal, rack, and you can go back and forth with it. And so every shot has a little bit of parallax in it. Gives it a little bit of movement there. And that movement, I think, is the difference between what looks like agency level work a lot of times and what looks like, you know, your local carpet ad. And so the camera primarily was the Sony. There was a shot of a fireman coming out of, holding a child with, flames and smoke and everything. I added the flames later in After Effects. We had red lights in the room with a smoke generator making that happen, and that was shot on a GoPro on the back from another fireman in front of him. So there were 3 cameras there. This was the one that was the GoPro coming off, and this, that you can move it into the next shot too if you'd like here.
Yeah, I was just trying to get it. I wanted to see the shot of the flames here. So you added
Yep.
that afterwards. So I don't know if
I
everybody
yeah, I added
saw
the
that.
light after yeah, but
Okay.
it's such a quick shot, you can even see when you slow it down really
Yeah,
fast that one of our lights are up there, just kind of hanging out in the room, and,
but
um
it's subtle. It's subtle. It's very subtle.
it is, and this obviously worked out to be a really nice shot visually because the lights from the fire rescue in the night with all the fog moving upward, it really created a dramatic look. One of the ways I like to shoot is to really get either really low, really high, really close, or really far because I think sometimes when you take the extreme approach instead of trying to do the I'm gonna just kinda cover everything like a security camera, you bring people really into it. So sometimes when I've done other fire videos for other places and we'll have a victim in the car and I've got my arms through the window looking at them like almost just their face and then stepping back and then you're coming back and then the window kind of comes into view as you go beyond it and things like that. And a lot of that movement makes it really I think, intriguing for somebody because you think you're seeing one story, one picture, and then all of a sudden it changes to show a bigger story.
So let me ask you something. I mean, John Mahoney in the chat room, it says, Jeff's video really connects at an emotional level. Each shot moves um, with the narrative forward, and it connects. Um, believe it or not, folks. There's a lot in that 60 seconds. You managed to tell a fascinating story in 60 seconds. You didn't need to make it 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And for
Well,
for for video guys, that's tough to do.
Well, I appreciate that. The reality is it was actually a minute and a half, but if you see it the whole time, everybody that we
Okay.
have had the opportunity to show it to say that they thought it was 60 seconds, which is a good thing, right? Because
Yeah.
how many times as a producer do you hear a client say, I don't want a 2-minute video, and they start talking to you
Exactly.
about time. I had this happen yesterday in a meeting in DC, and my answer was, your video could actually be 10 minutes long if it is of the quality and the story and the narrative and letting it breathe in a way where when people are done watching, they didn't realize that 10 minutes went by. The time is not the issue. It's what you're putting into it that's going to make it viewable, likable, and either meaningful or not meaningful. And so on this, I think we hit a home run. I personally think, and it's one of these things where a minute and a half is very rarely something that a PSA will air at that. Usually they'll be given stations have to give that time away. They'll give away 30 seconds, but the fact that
Yeah.
it's been played throughout North Carolina since February at that length, it's been incredible. We do have shorter options, but this is the one we've seen people use. And to date, 690 people have signed up saying they want to join and know more about how to be a fireman or a firewoman, learning how to really help their community. And so I think it did what we wanted it to do.
Well, that's just it. I mean, you're taking regular household consumer grade cameras and things that people can get their hands on and create something that's Emmy worthy, right? And I think that was kind of my vision with this show when we started talking about what we wanted to get into with camera technique, because obviously people come on here, they hear us say all the time, well, content is king, content is everything, and this is a perfect depiction of where content is king, and just using your skills that you've honed in video to be able to maneuver around vehicles and take a shot that just looks captivating, or like you said, the gentleman that owns the drone, he knows how to fly it in there and get just those perfect shots. um, it's what we've all talked about on this show, is honing your craft, understanding it. I bought a drone too, but I don't think I could fly it as good as as
There's a
as he did. you know
Yeah, but you know what though? There's another secret to it, and that is that every great photographer knows the thousands of photos they took at the exact same moment that didn't work. Some of it is you record a lot. Now, the way I approach projects is very different than most people. There are people who are so different than I am because they're academic. They will create a full storyboard and they'll say, okay, this is what my shots are supposed to look like as I tell my story. The clients are very happy about that, and it's usually a good thing to do. And you go through and you say, this is what I'm going to capture, and this is what we're going to get. I build a shot sheet. So I know the shots based off of the ideas of kind of where I want the story to be at certain parts in the video, but I record it really, almost in a way that I don't even know how it's gonna turn out until we put it together. I go and I collect as much visual as I can to support that part of what I'm looking for. I remember, being on the back of a utility truck, one of the fire vehicles, holding the camera up in 30-degree temperatures and blowing wind, and I'm holding it like this, and I'm I have them in front of me or behind me, so I'm trying to get them as they're coming at us as we're driving along some roads. We did that for like an hour, but I didn't really use any of it because while we did it, I felt like it was a little too bumpy at times. It looked more distant. I want to be able to see the faces of the people we're talking about sometimes. So I think the next time if I do this, I'm probably going to mount a GoPro or something actually off of the ladder hanging over the front and putting an extension on it where literally you're seeing them up front and you'll see the kind of things going by on the sides, but you'll get that kind of image of they're the people that are inside that truck. But a lot of it is just kind of thinking about you know what would really make you think about that particular part of your story. So for instance, like there's the one part of it about at the very end where you saw that shot come over top of the fire truck. That part of the story is basically you could also be somebody who, maybe was a former accountant who can help, get the funds together, do the fundraising drive to help buy that 700, $800,000 vehicle for that community for the next 10 years. And I thought, we could show it driving out like we always do and all, but what against people who were telling me it was my only camera with me, I put it down low and I did some measurement and we ran over it a couple times, but it actually, it worked. It made it look a little bit more unique. And I think unique is the play of the day if you're going to do video because everybody is doing the exact same thing, whether it's box interviews like what we're doing or
Yep.
whether it is trying to accomplish, your mission with your real estate brand or whatever it might be, find a way to tell that story in a different manner because that's what's gonna be the hook. It's not gonna be the fact you're using 4K.
That's
That
right.
has nothing to do with it, I think, because for a 4K closet in a real estate video doesn't mean a lot, but an HD version of, maybe, coming down a nice circular flight of stairs and, making it look beautiful, I think that could be something really amazing.
So let me ask you something. Like going into something like this, it's a minute and a half video. You cut it down to 60 seconds. How much time did you put into something like this?
Well, I rode with them. I was embedded with them for 2.5 days. Went down late January of last year, and, during the when there weren't calls, I was actually making them, take me around, recording with the fire trucks just going down the street. A lot of, turn your lights on, drive, stop, turn around, come back and do it again. You see that in the church shot where the fire truck goes by, that was planned. I wanted them in the shot as I sweep toward the church saying, "Hey, we support our firefighters." We created that scene on a Saturday night. We started about 2 in the afternoon. We didn't get done probably until about 7. And, for that one, 10-second, 12-second area there with the 2 aerial shots, and, then we went, and used their church, of all things, on the backside to make it look like an apartment building where we had the smoke and the firefighter coming through the door and that kind of thing. But all in all, the recording part of it was about 2.5 days, and the editing on it, I think, took right around 15, 16 hours for that to just figure out what I wanted to do with it. But for me, I define editing very different than a lot of people. A lot of people know what they're going to put together and they're assembling. They
Hmm.
oh, I want this, I want that. A lot of times I'll find 3 or 4 shots I think could really work and I'll try every one of them. And if I like it, I'll keep it. If not, I'll throw it out and delete the timeline or save it and add a new timeline and take a look at it. But it's more of an organic way of editing, but I like the fact that it's so freeform that I can kind of really get I think the best of the footage and really place it where I think it's going to have an opportunity to really shine.
Well, let me ask you this: for some of the companies, the small businesses out there, obviously they don't have a budget, and they want to do something like this to emphasize their business, emphasize their social structure, their presence on the web, on social media. I mean, social media, especially Instagram, they're not going to let you put like a 3, 4, 5 minute video up there. They're only going to let you put on,
One,
something like that
yeah.
60 seconds, right? What
Instagram is 60 seconds. Instagram TV, IGTV is a little longer.
Okay. So what advice would you have for folks starting out? They're not videographers, they're not people. Maybe all they have is an iPhone and they, is there
No
a way to
problem.
capture this quality, capture this type of camera technique with other cameras and how do you go about I know this is a loaded question, but how do you go about getting to the point where you're like, "Yep, that's the shot I want." I mean, you can't recreate, especially in this situation. You guys sort of did, but you can't recreate some things because
Right.
you took a bad shot.
No, you're totally right about that. You don't get a second chance a lot of times. I think, if you think about it like this, if we talk about award competitions, whatever they might be, especially for Emmys, every single entry out of the 150 that usually 200 or whatever get put into any regional Emmy awards, every one of them are using the same type of camera, certainly the same resolution, uh, you know. So it's not about the camera, it's not about the technology. And if you really want to be able to do it the way we're talking about, stop thinking about your phone and the shiny buttons and all the things you can buy at B&H Photo or on Amazon because none of those things but that's where we get lost.
Yep.
There's this native thing that we all believe by osmosis. If we buy the next version of our software we've already paid $2,000 for. I use Cinema 4D, which is a 3D program. You get the new version, you think I'm gonna be a better animator. Well, no, you got to put the time in. It is a lot like being a musician. I'm a struggling bass player after 2 years because I haven't put the time into it that I need to, but I
Right.
love it. it really comes when you say, "How do you know?" It's because just like when you play a song, you know when you've ended in the right note, right?
Mhm.
And so my, advice would be if you want to, at any level, be able to do something more toward the cinematic stories, stop looking at it through your phone and actually look at it in person in front of you, and you begin looking at what would make a really incredible story. You see a lot of times now people are really getting good with cinematography. Even brand videos are really looking, I mean, super Hollywood, slow motion jump cuts, even a nuanced slow motion where it will speed up and then slow down because it's got a curve on it. A speed curve has been added, that kind of thing. Um, but those things, I think sometimes if they don't belong there, they don't add to the story. They just basically show you're a great editor, but your story still needs to be strong. And so,
Yeah.
we say this so much, it sounds like it's cliche, but you have to know what the story is. And what do we mean by story? There's a challenge, there's a struggle, and there's a result. And sometimes people win in a movie, sometimes they lose. But you have to be able to show where the arc is in that, there's a challenge. In this case, it's the challenge is we need more volunteers to save the day. There are some communities in America where, rural communities where there's nobody, and if the call comes out, they are saying, "Hey, be ready that we may take 15 minutes getting to you because we don't have enough people. We gotta bring people in from farther places." That's a problem. So that's the struggle. And so, that arc goes through this video talking about the unity that, we're all bigger and better when we work together, when we're able to serve each other in a way that's meaningful. And, it says in the script, there's no paycheck waiting in the ashes, no performance bonus for, pulling the medal away from a beating heart. But our job, the value of it gives us something much more personal. It's knowing that you can go to bed too. And it's knowing, when they say thank you in tears, that it meant something. Those are the kind of storylines that move from, yes, it's a challenge, but there is an answer, but you have to be part of that answer for it to be meaningful for everybody. And that's what really elicits that wanting people to come in and join it. And like I said, it's just been a blessing to hear that over 680, I think it was 690 people so far, have said they wanna take a shot at it. And it's a hard road. You gotta do a year of fire school and a lot of times a year of EMT to be a firefighter EMT combo, but it's worth it because we need people in that moment, on the highway and everywhere in between.
So before we got to wrap this up, I want to ask you, so that entrepreneur that's out there that's doing everything for his company. So you're essentially, if I understood this correct, you're stating that you should find three important topics, if you will, to hit during that video that will help you tell the story. Am I right in saying that?
To some extent, yes. It's not so much that they're topics. It's basically, when you watch, Superman movies, say superhero movies. There's a story that every great story has a hero, but what does the hero have to face? Whether it's Spider-Man getting bit, he knows
Right.
that there's a greater self in there, but he's not there yet, and so there's a lot of self doubt. And then there's the antagonist that comes along that says you'll never be anything, and then there's that moment where they're faced with, I either try and stretch and do the uncomfortable, or I'm gonna, kind of shrink back to who I was and I'll never have that victory. And then you see the big epic battle, and many times we see our hero come through the ashes holding the beautiful lady, and she beat a lot of people up for him, and that kind of thing. She's strong as he is. And that's what stories look like. So begin thinking about it, if you're selling a product, it doesn't matter what the features are on your product, is how are you really helping people? If you're somebody who create something that saves somebody a couple hours a day in their commute. Whatever it might be. Maybe it's an app to get you around traffic accidents, like what Google Maps is today. You're changing people's lives because the story there is not them sitting in traffic. The story there is the video starts with dad walking in right as they start blowing the candles out for happy birthday that he didn't miss his kid's birthday party.
Yeah.
That's where the story is, right? It's not over here that the app has,
Sure.
GPS 9.0 on it. So it's thinking of your content in a way that gets back to the fundamentals of where does it really create value for people, where they see it. And if you can do that, you're going to hit a home run too.
So Rob Jones says he's loving the discussion here. He said he is, he was a volunteer fireman.
Awesome.
He says he loved the discussion and he loves the camera work that you did. So, um,
Well, I appreciate that so much. And Rob, I appreciate your service. And for anybody who's watching this or who does see this, get in touch with me if you're interested in being a marketing and media person. in your local fire system because there's a place for you like there is for me. And like I said, I don't fight fires, but I do the media campaigns in Loudoun County, Virginia, for my fire system, and it's an opportunity where you can tell the story for these great men and women because they don't know how to do it, and
That's
that's
right.
why I think, by and large, volunteerism is falling because they don't know how to communicate in today's world. So there's a place for you in the volunteer fire service, and if you're interested, look me up, either at firemedia.tv or jeffandhighdef.tv. Would love to help.
Well, and so that's something that, I thought was gonna be really good for the show when we started talking about camera technique. We've talked about camera technique in the studio and camera technique and not sitting in front of a window, but I don't we've never talked about when you're trying to create video or movies or anything like that, or just even some kind of um, social presence video for your company or anything like that. And I think when I think of your video, especially especially since all the hard work and time that you put into it and now being recognized for that, I think it's something people can look at and say, hey, I can do this. I can take some of the tips that Jeff has given. I can look at that video and go, he really told a story and he didn't spend thousands of dollars doing it. He just understood, like you said, you saw the story. You went there and visually saw it. And I think that is
Absolutely.
key, right?
It is, and, I'm a big believer that you have to have vision, the strategic marketing I do in fire systems now, I start with a slide that says "why" with a puzzle piece on it because you have to know your why with whatever you're doing in life, and if you understand the why, then you're gonna understand the where and the how and everything else that will follow along with that. Vision is key, and you have to know what you're going to communicate before you ever get there with a camera, and, unfortunately, Amazon doesn't sell that, so you have to learn how to do that, and you have to give it a shot.
Well, it's one of those things that we really hate to end the show and go, but we're kind of out of time. But we do want to thank the folks over at Telestream, and I want to tell you something. Telestream has, for those that don't know, you want to stream like a pro, head on over to telestream.net. They've got a special for you guys right now for Wirecast Studio and Wirecast Pro. You can get 10% off right now by using the offer code on social 10. Now, I do want to state this discount code is only good until midnight on the 19th. So, you want to step up your online production, you want to get out there and start making video for your social presence, go download Wirecast, give it a try, kick the tires in on it, and if you like it, use the offer code. I mean, you just can't beat it. You're seeing the quality of Jeff coming in here. We're streaming out using Wirecast. It's a powerful tool, but like Jeff said, you also have to learn the fundamentals. You have to know how to use the tool, not just, hey, I got this great product. Now it's going to make me awesome content. You have to do your due
Yeah,
diligence.
and but there's a trick to that too, Steve, is that, when we talk about learning, and I think of this with bass playing. I know, Brad, you're a bass player. You gotta teach me, bud. Um, when you finally learn a little, scale or a note or any little minor thing, how long did that really take to learn? It doesn't take that long. So when you hear that, don't let that make you think, "Oh my god, I'm never gonna get there." And you build a barrier that never
Hmm.
existed to begin with. So lay that stuff aside. I'm a big believer in the metaphor of the promised land. We're here, there's giants challenges in the middle, but there's a promised land on the other side. Get out there and start telling stories with your camera before you get clients.
That's
Learn
right.
how to do it. Just serve in your community. Go to your homeless shelters this Christmas and say, I want to capture the great things you're doing to bring hope and healing to people in your world. And then you tell their story for them and do it for free if you can do it. And that will be something that's not only going to better who you are, it's going to better who they are, and it's going to bring more help to the people that need it most. It's a win, 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 I think, right? It's what we're going to call it, the quad win.
Absolutely, and I want to stress this too, guys. This is something right here. I carry this a lot with me. Besides my phone, this does 1080p 60. I think I may have paid a little over $100 for it. It's a JVC. Takes great video, and just like Jeff was saying, man, you can get out there and make some awesome video. Do some narrative over top of it with something like that, and or even combine it with your iPhone or a GoPro, and you're set. But I agree with him 100%. I think. Get out there and start doing it, and
That's
and
right.
you might be up for an Emmy next year. You might give this guy some competition here next year.
I would
Uh,
love it.
ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jeff Fitzgerald from jeffandhighdef.tv. Check him out and check out all his great works that he has there. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for being here. You guys can see the story there as well as a bunch of other stuff that'll keep you entertained for 2 or 3 minutes.
Well, I also wanted to let everybody know, originally I was supposed to go on tomorrow to talk about Wirecast with John Mahoney, but I had some circumstances that are outside of my control for this weekend that I'm unable to do that. So I talked with John. We're going to reschedule that. So if you guys are looking forward to like an in-depth kind of walkthrough with Wirecast, it's been rescheduled for January 3rd on Friday at 2 p.m. January 3rd. So make sure you mark your calendars. I'm going to go on there with John Mahoney for Streaming Alchemy, and we're going to talk Wirecast and get into some of the higher stuff. So bring your questions, and as we dive into Wirecast, talk about some workflows and things like that. So I wanted to put that out there to everyone. I'm sorry if you were looking forward to it, but unfortunately, yeah, this was outside of my control. I even had to push back some of my other shows that I do on my own personal time because of this. But I appreciate everybody understanding. And guys, we'll see you next week for our final show of 2019. It's hard to believe that I'm saying that. And don't tell Marty what we're planning to do. So that's next week, Jeff.
You got it.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the weekend. And remember, keep it social.